She got the wrong time, so hopefully she'll get here in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I call this meeting to order. And as you see on your seats, you'll find the pay vouchers. Please sign those and bring them in if you haven't done that at this time. So the first order of business today would be to approve the committee minutes of July 19th, 2023, which are distributed to the committee members on September 7th. And do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion been made by Senator Erickson, seconded by Senator Wilburn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. I will say that Senator Masterson, who is part of this committee, is not here presently. Senator Erickson is taking his place today, but he is online. He will not be a voting member of this today. So the committee has one new appointment for confirmation today, and that is the appointment of Annie Kiefer for Commissioner of the Kansas Corporation Commission to serve a 4-year term expiring on March 15th, 2027. And I invite to the podium Annie Kiefer and ask her to tell us a little bit about the committee. Make sure that, and is the microphone on?
Now it is.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure to be here this morning. I'd like to say good morning to Chairman Alley, Vice Chairwoman Sykes, and committee members. It's a pleasure to be here. Very familiar faces, very strange to be on this side of the business taking place here today. I'm usually sitting where you guys used to be. So anyway, there went my pen. I'd like to say good morning. My name is Annie Kiefer, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning and visit with you about my appointment to the Kansas Corporation Committee. I was born and raised in St. Louis, and my dad was a lawyer, and my mom a stay-at-home volunteer, community volunteer mom. And I grew up with 3 sisters. I'm the youngest, and even the dog was a girl. So dad was really outnumbered. But they helped to teach me teamwork and the value of hard work, and to show up show the importance of giving back to those in the community. I moved to Topeka as a bride when I married John Kiefer, a professor of law at Washburn University, where he taught for 27 years. He died on the morning I was due to be sworn in for my 2nd term. We have 2 children, Rebecca and Ted, and I'm also a proud grandmother of 4 grandchildren who call me Llama. That's a long story. Volunteer work has always been an important part of my life. I was a leader at a Girl Scout organization and Boy Scouts, and I have an Eagle Scout. My son is an Eagle Scout. And it was important to be an active part in my community with schools and other projects going on. These experiences were how I first felt called to be try to be active with running for the Kansas Legislature. I was driven to run out of a desire to serve my fellow Kansans and better the lives of those in my community in any way I possibly could. I was fortunate enough to be elected and share the same values were my North Stars as I served in the legislature. Early on in my tenure, I was asked to serve on the House Utilities Committee. I readily agreed with 2 caveats. I know how to answer a phone, and I know how to turn on the light switch. That was about what I knew 27 years ago about utilities. So it was, I was a novice, obviously, with these complicated issues, but I found a new passion, and I served on that committee for the entire time I served in the legislature. I served as the ranking member of that committee for 20 years, and in those 20 years, I was able to learn a whole lot about all very complicated issues that come before that committee. So it was quite an education and involved a lot on my part, I believed, to do my homework and to do the work to understand what the issues before me were. And utilities just really seemed to be a wonderful committee because it was so bipartisan. And it was a joy just to work with people to try to get to the best solutions for everybody, not only in the local community, but all of Kansans, which is, as you all know, is very difficult to do, but we all try. So I really wanted to make sure that I was working in a collaborative form to find the most effective solutions that I possibly could. And some of those that we were able to work together and do some that I'm really proud about are E91 and the suicide hotline, which is very important and apparently being very well being used and serving its purpose the way we wanted it to. And then the broadband expansion planning task force initiative was the big one, the last really big issue that I worked on as the ranking Democrat. And it's that kind of purpose that I intend to try to work with in members at the commission, to listen to all sides and to work together to make the best we possibly can. I also recognize that there's a great deal of difference in the role of the legislature in making policy, which is ideas, and in the role of the KCC, which is regulating, which is enforcement. So those are two very different types of jobs, which I look forward to working with. And as a commissioner, I really understand that policy comes from you all. That is not our job over in the KCC, your job. And that's a dynamic I tend to keep in mind always as I will be pursuing issues to make decisions. I also recognize that it comes at an important time. There's a lot going on everybody's talking about it, and so we all know that that's the elephant in the room. It's the rate case at KCC, and certainly that is something that I probably have as much exposure to right now as you all do. You're reading the articles about what's going on, what side's planning to do what, and that's what, as much as I know right now, and it's my understanding that nothing substantial has started to take place with that rate case. So I will be going in on the ground floor, just like the rest of the commissioners will be. So that's good news for everybody, I think. And I'm willing and ready to put in the hard work to come up to speed to know where I need to be. Getting ready to dive into that important case. Certainly, as a legislator on the Utilities Committee, I was part of that policy making that said to Evergy, you're not going to just have rate increases all the time. We put the 5-year moratorium on them, which came to an end, and here we are. So, yeah, be careful what you wish for. I think is what that falls into, but. I guess that's really all that I need to say. I mean, I don't like to overtalk. I like to answer questions. So I'd be happy to answer any question. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Committee members, questions? Senator Welborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative, soon-to-be Commissioner Kiefer. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
A couple of questions I have. The first one has to do with my Senate district, Senate District 35, which is centered around a lot of oil and gas. Soon to be Senate District 14, which will have the 2 largest refineries in the state.
I've been there.
Plus, we have a number of fractional distillation of natural gas and the largest LPG storage in North America, or one of the largest. There seems to be a war against hydrocarbons. We all recognize that it takes a balance of all the different energy sources, but we're attacking a Kansas industry that employs a lot of people, that provides revenue for the state, and provides energy for other states just in Kansas. What is your take on the war on carbon, oil, and gas?
Thank you for the question. I just really think that you summed it up nicely in that we all have to be cognitive that all of the above is the issue that we have to address. You take one away and you're going to create a horrible void for industry, for economy. You can't just pull the rug out from underneath an industry that's been putting forth good jobs and such for Kansans. So I'm an all of the above kind of girl. I think that's important. And I would certainly not be one to pull the rug.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one follow-up, the war on oil and gas that you see at the national level and with this administration. Do you care to comment?
The federal?
The federal legislation, yeah, federal administration.
Okay, yeah. Well, that is precisely federal. I think Kansas policy is where it is right now, and we need to do what's right for Kansas and let the federal government do what it wants to do. This is Kansas. We need to do what's right for Kansas.
Any other questions? Senator Seitz.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Annie. You have a wonderful history, I think, of being very bipartisan in this building and for your many years of service. But can you talk about, dealing, especially as ranking on utilities and having to work together across the aisle to pass good policy, and how will that benefit you serving on the KCC?
Thank you for the question. One of the things that when I first started as ranking on utilities was a meeting with the vice chair and the chair first thing in the week to figure out what we were going to be discussing during the week. That spread over into having an 8 o'clock Friday morning meeting with the Senate leadership of the Utilities Committee, and we would share what was going on in our committees, and if there was something that didn't quite get done in the House, could we get it done in the Senate? And it was a marvelous time to be able to sit down and just talk and lay everything on the table. And I see that in this job as well. I mean, their staff, there are other commissioners, there are people that we're all going to have to be working with. And I view that as very important, and listening is a very important part of the job.
Thank you. I appreciate that collaboration you brought into this building. So I am really excited for how you will kind of bridge that into this new venture. So thank you.
Any other questions? But before we take those questions, Senator Ware is online. She's driving in, so she's listening on the phone.
Great.
So any other questions? I might. Senator Wilburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, one more question, Representative Kiefer. There's a lot of controversy on the siting of these transmission lines. You're familiar with that, I think, from your utilities work. And, it's a delicate balance, I realize, of eminent domain and getting the transmission lines and protecting property rights. Property rights are really key in this state. Would you like to comment on the siting of those transmission lines?
Sure. Really, what I can say is that this is an issue that's already out on the docket in the KCC, so that came from this last session when these issues were being discussed. And so that's about all I can really say about it at this point, because it's already at the KCC.
Senator Bellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today, and thanks for visiting with me on the phone earlier.
Sure, thank you.
When transmission lines are built to move electricity out of the state, okay?
Not,
When somebody comes in here and puts in wind towers or whatever, and we have to build new transmission lines to go to Oklahoma or wherever, who should pay for them?
the user. But not all transmission is built to go out of the state.
Out of state?
Well, not all of it's built to go out of the state.
No, but
But the user, it gets the user.
okay, because I think in the past, we've got local REAs that are having to put this up and pay for it. You familiar with that?
The what? I'm sorry.
Local REAs have to put in some of this infrastructure and pay for it, and the consumers, the local Kansans that belong to that cooperative are picking up the tab. Is that fair?
Well, we don't regulate the cooperatives.
No, but you regulate the wind generation, and that seems to be the biggest thing that's happened in the last few years is they come in and they built these, and it's not even being utilized in Kansas. It's being going to Arkansas or somewhere else. And just want to make sure that the Kansas consumers are not the ones to pick up the tab on this.
And I would agree with that.
And within the state, who do you believe should pay for it?
Again, the user. I'm back in the early 2000s. The state of Kansas built a large amount of transmission because we were under the, we needed transmission lines to make the grid safe. And so we built, so those users were the ones that paid for it in Kansas.
So you were on utilities for 20-some years, 26, was it, or 25, 26?
26.
26. So you was there probably when the first wind towers were proposed. And how did you feel about the property tax exemptions?
I didn't have any trouble with it to speak of. I mean, that most industries that provide service like that do get tax breaks.
I think I hear this a lot from consumers, that, the tax exemptions and so forth, and I think that's probably something I just want to know your opinion on. Another issue that we've kind of addressed the last few years, but when cities annex, and the property of the annex is already being served by an REA, I think we've passed some legislation in the last couple of years. Are you familiar with that legislation, and was you in favor of it?
I don't exactly remember that. No, I don't.
Well, it was a couple of years ago we passed this, and it says if you annex property that's being served by an REA, that you have to compensate the REA. Still don't remember?
That might have been in the tax committee and not mine.
One of the real issues I have with this whole confirmation today is the timing. I think the timing of this is very strange, that the replacement should have been done back in March when we had a full utility committee here to confirm. And, the few of us here are being asked to do this today, and I just think it's, I think the governor's put you in a kind of a tough spot here because you're going to be asked to jump in here. I know you mentioned earlier that I think you said that nothing's happened yet in the rate case. I don't know because we don't know. And you said earlier you didn't know either. But maybe there is some stuff that's happened. I don't know. But it seems to me like it's going to put you in a really tough position because there have already been meetings and different determinations made. And I just think that the average Kansan is going to wonder why this confirmation didn't wait for a full Senate confirmation. Do you have any insight on that?
I really do not. I mean, when the governor called and asked me if I was interested, I said, yes, ma'am. And that's about all we've talked about. The background check by the KBI started in April, maybe. And that takes a long time. I mean, I didn't, I've been fingerprinted, I mean, everything. I mean, it's quite a process. So it's been ongoing, but I would not be able to speak for the governor or the governor's office. I'm sorry.
So do you, what are your thoughts on the rate increase? You said you've read everything up to date?
Well, again, that's on the docket at the KCC. I can't really say what, I, I can't speak to that at this point. Go in with a clear mind.
And you've retired, but you're not drawing capers yet, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what you told me yesterday. And did you find out how much is the salary?
I don't know. I did find out that it is tied to the same amount in statute as somebody working at the district court. And I don't know. That wasn't,
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Well, I do have a couple. We talked on the phone, and can you tell us what you believe the role is for your position you're being confirmed for? What is your mission? What's your role and the mission of the KCC?
well, the mission is to oversee 5 different areas in conservation and utilities, transportation and energy. All these things fall under the purview of the commission. And we set rates, but it's also to make sure that things are being done safely and in the best interest, in my mind, for the Kansas consumer. There are a multitude of factors that, figure into every kind of, whether it's oil and gas or transportation or whatnot, but it's pretty much, in my mind, to do the best for Kansans and keep things as safe as possible and reasonable.
Thank you. One of the things that has been confusing to me were the dates, the timeline of this application, the timeline of basically when confirmation was hearing, and we've had a little difficulty even setting this meeting today. But you mentioned a while ago, said when the governor called and asked you to serve. When was that?
April.
In April? Okay. I noticed on your application, April 10th was when you signed the application. Okay.
Getting ready for the volumes of paperwork
Yes.
for the KBI.
lot of paperwork and a lot of deal.
Yeah.
So with your 25 years plus experience in the legislature, and based on your service as a ranking member or minority member of the House Utility Committee, do you believe that you will be sufficiently acquainted with the issues surrounding these pending rate case? And it's going to be decided in December. So do you believe that you'll be sufficiently acquainted with these issues surrounding that case that you'll be able to make a intelligent decision as a member of the Kansas Corporation Commission?
I absolutely do.
Okay. And the other question that had come up, and I don't know what I'd visit with you about it, but did you attend any of the public meetings that we had? There was 3 of them, I think, in the state.
No, I did not. I read about what had been written of those meetings, but I did not.
And I know there's probably been, and I have not, so there's probably been volumes of documents. And have you read all those documents?
No, I don't have access to anything other than what you all have at this point. I mean, that will change should I have the job, but no, I don't have any access to any of that at this
I thought they were public documents. Maybe I was.
Well, the public meetings, yes, but I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't read them, but no.
Well, and I'm going to go through a timeline here because that's what part of my confusion was. Number one, the first time that we received the application, the date was, on your effective date, was January 1st of 2024. That's the first time I seen it. Now it came back to October 3rd of 2023 is the effective date if this body approves your commission. I had a little question, why those dates were there? Why was October 3rd there?
I was not a part of that negotiation. I have no idea. There are people from the governor's office that might be able to speak to that. I just filled out my application and am going forward. I haven't seen those or don't have any part of that.
And there is some activity, and I think I've seen the schedule of the activity of the KCC between now and the end of the year, now until that rate cases. There's quite a bit of activity, and there will be a lot of time to get started. And you got to, if you are approved, then there would be a lot of catching up to do, I believe. Have you met with any of the public based on any public comment? Has anybody from the public contacted you about the rate case?
No,
So no public comment, nobody else?
other than maybe my son who lives in Kansas City, which is a different issue altogether, and he's complaining about his. So.
I don't have any more comments this time. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. Yes. Yes, Senator Bellinger.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Senator Bellinger.
Thank you. So, on this rate increase deal, I think that's, like you said, your son called and I've, had numerous people that have talked about this as far as raising rates and in order to build infrastructure for a different type commercial businesses. Have you had any discussion on any of that? Thoughts on it?
With the rate case?
Well, not particularly the rate case, but just having the idea of raising everyone's rates $14 in order to
No, I
put
haven't.
in infrastructure for a corporation. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We're going to have now a question from Senator Ware, who is on the phone. If we can get that come through. Senator Ware?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, committee and Annie. As in talking with you, I was especially appreciative of how well you listen, and you've made that your business in the past. And we've talked about your team building and that sort of thing and being strategic already today. One thing that I was wondering about is it seems to me that you are especially good at being inclusive as far as pulling all the stakeholders together before making a decision. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I think I sort of tried to highlight how well that worked when we worked on the broadband initiative, because it affects healthcare, it affects education, it affects you at home, so many different levels. And to talk and work with people who represent it from their districts or whatnot, wherever, and businesses, you had to have everybody at the table to hear what they had there to say, to listen to them, to understand their knowledge on the issue, and the best way to form the broadband initiative to make it work for everybody. And the more people you bring to the table and hear and learn from their knowledge, I think it's always been a good thing. So that's how I've always worked. I always tried to work with the committee members I served with to listen and hear what they had to say. So when we were working bills, we could come to agreement.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, I would like to remind the committee of the actions that we can take today so that we can make sure we're clear. The committee can recommend confirming the nomination, a nominee, and send it to the full Senate. The committee can recommend not to confirm. The committee can send the nominee to the full Senate without recommendation. Those are the three actions which we can take today. I do want to kind of clarify a point that if approved, the appointment will be effective immediately. There was some concern on the date. One of the dates that we had again was January 1st. Another date was October 3rd. We have been in contact and so with the governor's office. And so this appointment, if approved, will take place immediately. So if there are no more questions, I'd like to entertain a motion for Annie Kiefer for the position of Kansas Commissioner to the Kansas Corporation Commission to the full Senate. Do I have a motion? Motion's been made by Senator Seitz. Do I have a second? Have a second? Second by Senator Erickson. Are there any comments? Okay, before we take the vote on that, I would like to ask the audience. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience? Seeing none? Then at this time, take a vote. All in favor of confirming Annie Kiefer for the position of Kansas Corporation Commissioner, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It's not on this candidate. It's on the timing of this whole issue. I think it looks bad when we're changing a KCC board member in the middle of this rate case. And that's, I think it needs to be, done at a, should have been done in January if they wanted to make a change. And if not, they should have waited till next January. I just think that to put it off here, I think the average Kansan is going to look at this and say, why are you replacing someone on the board at a special meeting? So I'm passing. I'm not voting no, I'm passing. Thank you.
And Senator Ware, have you voted?
I vote aye.
Thank you. The motion was made and seconded, and the vote was 5 ayes and 1 pass. Motion, you are confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda would be a current member of the Kansas Corporation Commission, Andrew French. And as you heard here today, we have been a little confused on timing, on dates. And so with that, Mr. French's expiration date is not until next year, March, I believe, 15th of next year. And so with that, this committee is not going to take up that nomination and let it run through what is the normal path, go through the utility committee, and we'll do that in January. So we appreciate you being here today. Thank you very much. But at that point, that's what we've decided to do on that nomination. So with that, are there any discussion or any actions? If not, meeting is adjourned.